I'm Dr. Mike Costello, and I'm with Dr. Iris Freelander. And today we would like to share with you some concepts and ideas for building self-esteem. Self-esteem is something that we all need, but it is the one thing that so many of us are challenged with, a lack of self-esteem. And when we have a lack of self-esteem, we are not empowered, we are not strengthened, we live our lives in defeat, and we're constantly battling the challenges and difficulties of life. And so this issue of self-esteem is so tremendously important. In metaphysical philosophy, we teach that we live in our minds and not in the world. And our feeling about self and our feeling about our inner person comes from our understanding a reality of the spiritual dimension of who and what we are. And so we want to talk for a few minutes about the importance of aligning ourselves with the presence and the power of God and claiming the strength and the power of the persons that we were all called and created to be. Self-esteem, Iris, is really a problem for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yes, that's unfortunate that it is, because it makes people's lives not worth living. It makes them feel depressed. It makes them feel not happy to meet new people. It has a detrimental effect in many ways. But self-esteem is simply knowing that we are a part of divine creator. I remember more than 40 years ago, I was taking a series of classes, and one thing they always said in those classes was we had to repeat, "I am a child of God." And I thought that was an odd thing for them to be saying, because they didn't say this is to build self-esteem. But obviously that's what it was, and it did. Because if we are a child of God, we're a part of God. And when we're a part of God and know that we are and function from that level, then we're going to have a good self-esteem.
Mhm. So many times, I think the problems with self-esteem and isolation begin, of course, like many problems, both psychological and spiritual, in early life. And we begin so often with our children, don't we,
Yeah.
in damaging their self-esteem. I saw a number of years ago or heard a speaker say that when they were young, that they thought that across their chest on their T-shirt it must have said "no, no," because that's what people said to them so often. No, 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 no. And then we begin by telling our children, we tell them no to try to control them, but then we move into the next stage and we begin to tell our young people, you can't do that for one reason or another. And so we begin to build within the consciousness of the young individual the belief in limitation and the belief in a less valued reality of their personage. And that really begins a whole mechanism that stays in place. And then the other side is, as you find in your counseling practice at the church and mine as well, so often women, and I think sometimes more than men, in the demonstration of lack of self-esteem come about because of a relationship issue, because of the traditional and misplaced roles within a marriage, and so often, or relationships, so often the husband will demean a wife, and we find that to be very common. Although today we find a number of wives who demean their husbands as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of equal opportunity lack of self-esteem. But those issues of early life and then midlife insecurity and people telling us that we can't and that we shouldn't and that we oughtn't, and then these issues in relationship that demean persons really are damaging, aren't they?
Yes, and isn't it interesting that some people just fight back and say, no, you're wrong, and go right on. It makes them stronger to be opposed in a way that would tear down their self-esteem, where others just wilt and don't. So it depends on the individual, doesn't it, as to whether or not they're going to be cowed or whether or not they're going to rise up and be stronger in the face of harsh words given by others. And it all is, the self-esteem is how we view ourselves as a part of God. If Don't you think that's true?
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line. If we know we're attuned to Creator God, if we know we're one with Him, if with that Creator force, if we know that we're all one in essence on earth and in heaven, it's all one, then we're a part of something so grand that I think it can't help but make us see that we are deserving of high self-esteem.
Mhm. And we have to, all of us have the belief that we are important and we are valued
Yes,
and that we have purpose. And it doesn't matter who we are and it doesn't matter how difficult the person's life has been. We all need to grasp hold of that. And some of us who have been damaged through actions and reactions and words and deeds in life, some people need really the support mechanism to help them. And of course, counseling and spiritual meditation and a variety of other mechanisms can begin that process
hmm,
in terms of building the understanding that there is value. And there's value because of who we are and because of what we are and what we are as children of God. And that's true for all of us. It
yes,
doesn't have to do with any religious belief. And we need to really be clear about that everybody, even people without faith, and you and I know people who are wonderful atheists,
yes,
and those people have great self-esteem and ought to,
yes.
because the reality is that they see themselves with and as persons of great value with things to contribute. And then there are of course atheists who are just as damaged as believers. And so we it's no respecter of persons, is it?
That's correct. And also, as we talk with other people, we can see how it's really sad when people view themselves in a low light, when they see themselves as not being important in their own scheme of things. And you wonder what made them that way.
Hmm.
But what made them that way is something inside themselves that really doesn't have to do with other people. Because I've counseled people who've been so abused and so terribly mistreated early on in life, who grew up to have great self-esteem, and they still remember those terrible times. And I'm thinking right now of two separate women had who had terrible lives. One a woman who's probably in her 50s now, and she's strong, serene, very strong in her spiritual beliefs, and yet she was terribly abused by both her grandfathers when she was a child. And she was abused for quite some time afterward too, as well. But yet she grew up to have self-esteem and grace and charm and accept that she is worthy of all good things in life. And the other one was that I'm thinking of was from a cult, a family of a cult, and they were Satanists. And that's I've never heard anyone have a more wretched life than she had, but yet now she does counseling. She got her college degree and she does counseling for people less fortunate. And it's just a wonderful thing how people can draw themselves up. So it doesn't matter what background we come from. It doesn't matter what terrible things have happened in our lives. It's how we react and accept our own responsibility to get on with our lives, isn't it?
It is absolutely true. And it goes back to the fundamental of what we teach on this program and in the church. That is that everything happens in us.
Yes.
And it's our choice. And if we can choose the positive and the affirmative, if we can choose in these instances, as these women did, that these negative aspects of life can strengthen us and empower us, then we're able to change our lives.
This program is a community outreach of Christ Church. Dr. Mike Costello speaks each Sunday morning at 11 a.m., and Dr. Iris Freelander speaks on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. at the church. On Sunday evenings at 6 p.m., there is a meditation and healing service. Come and join us. You will be warmly welcomed.